Here's the uncomfortable truth about this comparison. Your phone already picked your watch for you months or years ago. Buy the wrong one and you've got an expensive bracelet that won't even finish setup. So before anyone tells you which one is better, there's a far more important question. And almost every comparison video skips it entirely. Let's go through this honestly, no marketing talk, and by the end, you'll know exactly which one belongs on your wrist. Phone first, because everything else in this video depends on it. Let me start with the rule nobody puts on the box in big letters. The Apple Watch Series 11 only works with an iPhone. Not mostly, not with reduced features at all. You take it out of the box, you try to pair it with an Android phone, and setup simply stops. Real quick, before we go deeper, if this kind of honest, no-hype breakdown is what you're here for, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. It genuinely helps a small channel like this keep going. Now, the same rule cuts the other way. The Galaxy Watch 9 needs an Android phone, and Samsung's own software layer works best on a Galaxy. Put it next to an iPhone, and you're locked out before you begin. Let me give you a concrete picture of how deep this lock goes, because people underestimate it. The Apple Watch doesn't just need an iPhone for setup, it needs one permanently. It pulls your messages, your calls, your apps, and your health data straight from it. And without that phone in your life, the watch loses most of what makes it good. Samsung's side works the same way. The deepest features, the seamless pairing, the shared health data, all assume an Android phone sitting nearby. Neither company is being sneaky about it exactly, but neither one puts it in the headline either, and that's why people occasionally buy the wrong one as a gift and find out the hard way. If you're watching this to buy a watch for someone else, that's the single most important thing in this entire video. Check what phone they carry before you spend a cent. So when people argue about which of these watches is better, they're usually arguing about something that was never actually a choice for them. Your phone made this call already. Picture two people standing in the same store with the same $400, one with an iPhone in their pocket and one with a Galaxy, and you instantly see why there's no single right answer to this question. That's why the honest first question isn't which watch wins on paper, it's what's in your pocket right now. And here's where it gets expensive, because a lot of people don't realize the size of what they'd have to do to switch sides. Buying the other watch means buying the other phone, moving your photos, your messages, your apps, your subscriptions, and relearning a whole system. Nobody switches phones for a watch. It's the most expensive tail wagging the smallest dog you'll ever see in tech. So for the vast majority of you watching this, the real question isn't Apple versus Samsung, it's whether the watch you're allowed to buy is actually worth buying at all. That's the question we're going to answer properly, and I want to flag something now for the end of this video because it's the piece that could genuinely save you money. There's a timing detail about one of these two watches that makes buying it today a mistake for a lot of people, and it's got nothing to do with specs. Most comparisons won't mention it because it doesn't help anyone sell you anything. Keep that in the back of your mind. It's also worth saying that both of these watches are mature products now. The era where a smartwatch felt like a fragile experiment is well behind us, so whichever side you're on, you're not gambling on unfinished technology. Because now that we know the choice is mostly made for us, let's look at what these two actually do differently, starting with the thing you'll feel every single night: battery gap, and this is where the two genuinely part ways. Apple rates the Series 11 at up to 24 hours of normal use. And that's actually an improvement. The previous generation was rated at 18. There's also a low power mode that stretches it considerably further if you're willing to give up some features. Samsung's Galaxy Watch 9 carries a bigger battery relative to its size, and in normal use, it comfortably clears a day and a half, roughly 30 hours with the always-on display running, and closer to 40 with it off. So on paper, the gap is real, but let me translate it into what it means in your actual life, because that matters far more than the numbers. 24 hours sounds like plenty until you realize a day is also 24 hours long. That means the Apple Watch is essentially a charge everyday device, and if you want to track your sleep, you have to find a window somewhere else in your day to top it up. Most people end up charging while they shower or while they're making dinner, and it becomes a small daily ritual you never really stop thinking about. With the Samsung, you can skip a night without any drama. Not 2 full days of heavy use, I'm not going to oversell it, but enough headroom that a forgotten charge doesn't ruin your morning. Here's why that difference matters more than it looks. Sleep tracking is one of the genuinely useful things these watches do. The overnight heart rate, the sleep stages, the recovery scores. But a watch you have to charge every night is a watch that's off your wrist exactly when it's supposed to be measuring you. That's the quiet reason so many people buy a watch for sleep tracking and stop doing it within a month. And think about when you actually want the data most. Overnight, when you're asleep and not looking at anything, which is exactly the window a nightly charge steals from you. Ask yourself honestly whether you're the type who'll build a charging habit or the type who'll get annoyed and give up, because that answer probably matters more than any spec in this video. There's another angle to the battery difference that only shows up over years, and it's worth knowing before you buy. Every battery degrades with charge cycles, and a watch you charge every single night runs through those cycles faster than one you charge every other day. So 2 or 3 years down the line, the watch that started with more headroom tends to still feel usable, while the tighter one starts needing a midday top-up. That's not a dramatic difference on day 1, but it's the kind of thing that decides whether you're still wearing this watch in year 3 or quietly replacing it. Battery headroom isn't just convenience, it's longevity, and almost nobody factors that into the purchase. To be fair to Apple, the charging speed is quick, so a short top-up gets you a long way, and if you're disciplined about it, 24 hours is genuinely workable. But if you want a watch you think about less, Samsung gives you more room to be forgetful. One small practical tip that applies either way: if you do decide to track your sleep, pick a fixed daily charging slot and stick to it. Because a habit beats willpower, and it's the difference between a watch that works for you and one that sits in a drawer by November. And battery is only half of the daily experience, because what these watches actually measure is where the marketing gets loud and where one of them is telling you something that isn't quite true: health tracking. And this is the part where I need to correct something. Apple's headline health feature this year is hypertension notifications, and it's a genuinely significant thing. The watch analyzes your data passively over a long stretch of time, 30 days of readings, and can flag signs of consistently elevated blood pressure that you might otherwise never notice. That's meaningful because high blood pressure is famously silent and millions of people walk around with it undiagnosed. So credit where it's due, that's real. But here's the correction, and it matters if it's the reason you were about to spend $400. That feature is not exclusive to the newest model. It arrived through a software update and works on Apple Watches going back several generations. So if you already own a recent Apple Watch, you may already have the exact feature being used to sell you a new one. That's the kind of thing that never makes it into an ad, and it's exactly why doing 5 minutes of homework saves real money. Now to Samsung's side, because its health suite is deeper than most people assume. The Galaxy Watch9 offers ECG readings, body composition analysis that estimates things like body fat and muscle mass right from your wrist, sleep apnea detection, and a set of newer metrics, including an antioxidant index and vascular load. There's also a running coach that builds you a multi-week training plan and syncs with the apps you already use. Honestly, body composition is the one feature I genuinely miss switching from Samsung to Apple, because seeing muscle and fat trends move over months is oddly motivating in a way step counts never quite manage. On the fundamentals, both watches are excellent and honestly very close. Heart rate accuracy, workout tracking, sleep stages, activity rings, and their Samsung equivalents, you're well served either way. Where they diverge is philosophy. Apple's approach leans on long-term passive monitoring that quietly watches for problems, backed by a lot of medical validation work. Samsung's approach throws more measurements at you and lets you dig into them, with body composition being the standout thing Apple simply doesn't offer. Let me add something practical about how you should actually treat any of these health readings on either brand. The number that matters is never a single measurement, it's the trend. Because both of these watches are far better at spotting a change in your own baseline than at producing a clinically precise value on any given morning. So the right way to use them is to wear the thing consistently for a few weeks, let it learn what normal looks like for you, and pay attention when it tells you something has shifted. That's genuinely useful, and it's how these features are designed to work. Chasing individual readings and comparing them to a friend's watch is how people end up frustrated with perfectly good hardware. Neither of these is a medical device, and neither replaces a doctor, and I'd be doing you a disservice not to say that plainly. What they're genuinely good at is spotting a change in your own baseline and nudging you to get something checked. So on health, the honest verdict is that you're not really choosing between good and bad, you're choosing between two very good systems with different personalities. And on the software side, both have made their assistants central this year. Apple leaning on its revamped Siri and Samsung leaning on Gemini. So expect the voice experience to keep improving on both through updates rather than requiring new hardware. Which brings us to the money, and to a difference that's bigger than the sticker price suggests: price reality. And here the two look almost identical, until they don't. The Galaxy Watch 9 starts at $379 for the smaller size with Bluetooth. The Apple Watch Series 11 starts at $399 for its smaller size. So we're talking about a $20 gap at the entry point, which is close to nothing, and anyone framing one of these as the budget option is being generous with the truth. But the real number is never the starting number, and this is where people get caught out. Add cellular connectivity, which lets the watch work without your phone nearby, and you're adding roughly $100 on either side, plus a monthly plan from your carrier that people routinely forget to factor in. Choose a premium case material and the price climbs sharply again. Apple's titanium versions in particular jump well past the entry model. And then there are bands, which is where both companies quietly make a fortune because a nice official strap costs a meaningful fraction of the watch itself. So the honest picture is two watches that start within $20 of each other and can both end up costing double their entry price by the time you've configured them the way you actually want. So build your budget around the configuration you'll actually want, not the headline price, because almost nobody walks out with the base model and nothing else. There's also a cost people almost never think about until they're standing in a store, and that's what happens when you eventually leave. Watches are one of the stickiest products either company makes because the bands, the accessories, the charger, the apps you paid for, all of it is tied to the platform. Switch sides later and none of it comes with you, so the real price of a watch includes a little bit of future friction that never appears on the receipt. That's not a reason to avoid buying one, it's a reason to buy the one that matches the phone you're actually going to keep. And if you're the kind of person who changes phones every few years, weigh that honestly before you invest in the expensive case material and 3 official straps. Here's the part worth thinking about beyond the receipt. The cheaper long-term choice is almost always the one that fits the phone you already own, because the alternative isn't a $20 difference, it's the price of a new phone, plus the hassle of moving your entire digital life. That's why the phone first question we started with isn't just a technicality, it's the single biggest financial factor in this whole comparison. And one more practical note that applies to both. Previous generation models get discounted heavily once a new one arrives, and on watches the year-over-year jumps have gotten small. So if your budget is tight, last year's model of either brand is usually a smarter purchase than stretching for the newest one. Which sets up the timing detail I promised you at the start, and it's the thing that should decide whether you buy this week or wait. Your call, and let me make this genuinely simple. If you carry an iPhone, buy the Apple Watch, full stop. It integrates with your phone in ways nothing else can match. The notifications, the unlocking, the ecosystem handoffs, and the Series 11 is an excellent watch with a real battery improvement over its predecessor. If you carry an Android phone, and especially a Galaxy, buy the Galaxy Watch 9. You get more battery headroom, body composition tracking Apple doesn't offer, and the same tight ecosystem feeling that iPhone users get on their side. If you're one of the rare people genuinely choosing a phone and a watch at the same time, then the tiebreakers are these. Pick Apple if you want the most polished passive health monitoring and the deepest app selection. Pick Samsung if you want to charge less often and see more raw data about your body. And here's the timing detail I've been building too, the one that could save you money this month. Apple's next generation, the Series 12, is expected in September alongside the new iPhones, and it's reportedly getting the first genuinely new chip in 3 years. 2 things follow from that. First, if you're on iPhone and you can wait a few weeks, waiting is the smart move. Second, and this is the part most people miss, when the new model lands, the Series 11 doesn't get worse, it just gets cheaper, and that discount is often the best value in Apple's entire lineup. So either way, if you're an iPhone user reading this in the weeks before that launch, holding off costs you nothing and probably saves you real money. Nobody selling watches has any reason to tell you that. Whatever you land on, the fact that you checked the ecosystem question before spending already puts you ahead of most buyers walking into a store this weekend. A few honest open points, because I'd rather name them than fake them. Real battery life on both depends heavily on your settings, your workouts, and whether you keep the always-on display running, so treat the official numbers as a ceiling, not a promise. The Series 12 details are still unofficial until Apple actually announces them, so I'm telling you what's expected, not what's confirmed. And prices move constantly, especially on last year's models, so check the live price before you commit. I'll circle back when the new hardware is official because we don't guess here. Tell me in the comments which phone you're carrying and which watch you ended up with, because that pairing is really the whole story, and other people deciding right now will find your take useful. I read every single one. Let me leave you with the bigger point, because it goes past these two watches. The smartwatch you own is almost never a free choice. It's an extension of a decision you made when you bought your phone, and both companies design it that way on purpose. That's not a scandal, it's the business model. But knowing it changes how you shop, because it means the smart question is never which watch is best, it's which watch is best for the ecosystem I'm already in. And one more genuinely honest thought before we wrap, because it goes past this comparison. My job here only works if you trust me, and that trust means telling you to wait or to buy the cheaper one, just as readily as telling you to spend. A channel that ends every video pointing at the priciest option is a channel you eventually stop believing. I'd much rather be the one you check right before you spend, precisely because sometimes the honest answer is not yet or not that one. That's the whole point of doing these properly. To sum it up, both of these are genuinely excellent watches. The winner is whichever one matches your phone, and if you're on iPhone right now, waiting a few weeks is the smartest thing you can do. Telling you to buy something today is easy. Telling you to wait is harder. But that's exactly what you're here for, and that's exactly why I make these videos. That was the honest comparison between the Galaxy Watch 9 and the Apple Watch Series 11. $20 apart on price, extremely close on health tracking, with Samsung taking the battery edge and Apple taking the passive monitoring edge. But the real answer was decided by the phone in your pocket long before you watched this. And if you're on iPhone, remember the timing. A new model is expected in September, which means waiting either gets you the newer watch or gets you this one cheaper. So what's your setup and which way are you going? Drop it in the comments, I read every single one. Links to both are down in the description like always. If this helped you out, leave a like and subscribe to Premium Tech so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.